let's learn many more things about acid and base. What are we going to learn now? Reaction of acids with bases. Acids, when it react with base, it produce salt and water. Now, when we represent acid by Ha, because acid contains hydrogen ions and base contains hydroxyl ions. So, we represent acid by Ha and base by BOH. Now, when they react with each other, what happens? We get Ba, that is salt, and along with the release of H2O, that is water. Now, what happens next? Let's understand. A is anion, which is a negative radical. B is cation, which is positive radical. So, when they react, we get Ba, which is a salt, and H2O, which is a water. The H plus ions of acid and OH minus of alkali react with each other to form unionized water. Now, when I say unionized, it means water which hasn't split into H plus and OH minus ions. It remains as it is. Let's learn something more. Now, this H plus and OH minus ions come together and form H2O. We take a particular example. For example, we take HCl, that is hydrochloric acid. When it reacts with NaOH, that is sodium hydroxide, we get NaCl and H2O. Here NaCl is salt and H2O is water. The reaction between acid and base to form salt and water, my dear student, is termed as neutralization reaction. So, acid neutralized by base and base neutralized by acid to give salt and water. Let's go ahead with this. We have already learned that there is a formation of salt in the neutralization reaction. So, let's learn what are the different types of salts. When acid reacts with base, it always gives salt and water. Now, there are many types of salts. The very first, let's understand. Now, if you have strong acid and it reacts with strong base, the salt which is formed is neutral along with the release of water. Now, when I say neutral salt, the pH of this salt will be exactly 7. Let's move ahead. Which is the strong acid and which is a strong base? We have learnt in this lesson. HCl, when it reacts with NaOH, it gives NaCl and H2O. Now, this NaCl is nothing but a neutral salt. Let's change the combination. If we have strong acid, but if we have a weak base, then the salt which is produced will have acidic ingredient and therefore it is called as acidic salt along with the formation of water. Now, here pH will be less than 7 because acids have pH which is less than 7. Let's move ahead. We have sulfuric acid, H2SO4, which is a strong acid, and magnesium hydroxide, which is a weak base. Now, when these two react with each other, there is a formation of acidic salt, which is magnesium sulfate, along with the release of water. And if we check out the pH, it is going to be less than 7. Let's move ahead. Now, this time, instead of strong acid, we take strong base, making it react with weak acid. So, the salt which is going to form is basic salt, along with the release of H2O. And if we check the pH of this solution, it is obviously more than 7. Let's take an example. We take strong base, that is NaOH, all of us know by now, and weak acid, that is acetic acid, CH3COOH. And the salt which is going to form is sodium acetate, whose molecular formula is CH3COONA, along with release of water. So, we have 3 types of salt, students. We have neutral salt, we have acidic salt, and we have basic salt. Let's learn one by one about these salts. And very first thing we are going to discuss is common salt, that is sodium chloride, which is also called as neutral salt. Now, how this is formed? Formed by the reaction of strong acid, that is HCl, and strong base, NaOH, when they react together. The product, the salt which is called as neutral salt. Now, this neutral salt which is solid and we dissolve in water, it's split into Na plus and Cl minus. When we dissolve this in H2O, the aqueous stand for water. Let's move ahead. It splits into ion, as we all know, into Na plus and Cl minus. What is next? Impure salt, that is impure NaCl, is brown in color, which is also known as rock salt. Purified NaCl is ionic compound which is colorless and crystalline. Let's learn something more about NaCl in the next module.